Yeah, so let's just look at where we are today. I mean, it's a very important platform. It's where the discussion of world events is happening every day. It's not been a great company, and they're under political fire from both the left and right for different reasons. And you can apply that to all of social media. Kelly, we've spent the last couple of weeks really trying to get to what the Republican agenda will be if they win the House of Representatives. And I have been struck by how top-tier issue going after social media, and in particular Twitter, was at that level. Okay, so energy number one, given inflation concerns, but social media number two on that list. And what that's telling you is that all this revelation out there that Hunter Biden's story was real, regardless of how you feel about it, or being banned, of their members being banned from that, they were going to push for changes. In divided government, were they going to get it? No, but no matter where these companies go, they're getting hit from the left or right. This creates a disrupting event. And I think Sarah did a very good explanation in the last segment of walking through what those business issues are and this decentralization and trying to create a different level of platform that would be open to everybody. Elon Musk does not do things on a half measure. My sense is if he's coming in to make a big change, and that may wind up inoculating them down the road if there's going to be these big political headwinds that are going to change.
I'm thinking about the Tesla shareholders who get nervous every time he talks about spending time on humanoid robots and other things. And now here we are talking about how much energy and time he may spend on Twitter, which, they might not be a huge fan of, but it could come at a time when we're seeing crackdowns, let's say, post-midterm elections. Does this now make Twitter more of a friend to the Republicans who could end up in charge of Congress in the fall, or are we just going to have to see how this actually changes, if it does?
Well, I think Twitter has to up its government affairs game, that the fact that they're such an important medium and they have so many enemies on both sides building up against them. And by the way, Kelly, we don't agree on much in Washington, but we had a 21-1 vote on tech regulation 2 months ago, right? So this whole idea of regulating the tech sector continues to get momentum. That's why the companies have to be engaged. I'm not sure the Musk changes will happen before the midterm election, but I think the Republicans would feel a lot easier if Trump was on the platform, if the president of China or Iran or whoever is also allowed on that. They find that to be very discriminatory. And that's why I think that this could be a positive change for the company itself.
Final word, if you're social media companies where you say their lobbying really hasn't borne a lot of fruit here, is that just because of the problems inherent to these platforms? They're damned if they do and damned if they don't.
Well, that's true. But at the same time, they're very large companies, and they need to be discussing what value they provide and adjusting to that value. We have found that lobbying is an underpriced benefit in the market. Companies that do it well tend to get an earnings benefit from that. And these companies just have not done it well, and they're really going to need to up their game. In fact, you look at it, they're the largest lobbying spenders, and yet they're continually under fire. That tells you they're not getting a good return on their investment for those dollars.
Which is unusual because you guys even have an ETF now for this, I believe, SGAP. And the whole point is to show that lobbying typically pays off as better investment returns. Why are we not seeing that for social media names? Would Meta also be part of that?
Yeah, Meta's the best of them all, but Google's really bad at this, and Amazon hasn't really been that good as well. And so what our ETF really just tries to identify large and small U.S. companies, as well as non-U.S. companies that lobby in the U.S. and get an earnings benefit. We launched this on January 25th. We've had great performance during this equity market volatility because what are those themes there? Defense, healthcare, energy and mining. These are the issues that matter, and those companies really do a very good lobbying job as their issues start to come to them. And the social media companies just have not been that effective, maybe because they're newer companies. Kelly, I'll just leave you with this. There was 26% of S&P 500 companies who ranked the government as their top risk pre-financial crisis. Today, that's 52%.
Wow.
So you got half the S&P 500 company saying that they see the government as the biggest risk. They need a seat at that table. And when you look at those tech companies, they're at 15 to 20% net risk. They have not caught up to what's going on the regulatory front, and they still have ways to go before they actually get there.
And even just looking at the holdings can be revealing names like Match Group and Universal Music that you wouldn't typically think of. Final word, Dan, do you think that Twitter will ultimately benefit in the long run if Musk pushes them towards a quote-unquote free speech approach here, or is it just going to invite further political scrutiny and pressure?
Yes, and I'm not a stock analyst of Twitter, but what I would say is that you got very sophisticated investors like Elliott Investment, now Elon Musk coming in. I think investors, very large investors, are starting to see the potential and the opportunity. It's about really being able to turn the Rubik's Cube to get the formula right. But there's at least an effort there to take that underutilized asset and turn it into something more productive. And I think that makes me a little bit optimistic about it.